Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Nohan, and today, while the lighting is going to do lots of weird things because of the trees that are behind the sun, in front of the sun, between the sun, the camera and me, I am going to talk to you about some of the reading I have been doing for reading around the world Invisible City kind of thing. So if you don't know, Invisible City is a project where each month two countries are picked, and the idea is that we delve into the cultures of those countries by reading preferably translated books, but also watching movies, making food, listening to music, whatever we want. And I wanted to update you on the reading I have done for Norway and Uganda. I can't even tell you which months those countries were in. And I have also watched a movie for Iran. Let's start with Norway. So for Norway, I read a book called The Ice Palace by Tarjei Vesaas. I read it in Dutch, which was a good choice because Dutch and Norway are very similar to one another. And when I've previously been in Norway, because my parents lived there for 4 years, I was often able to recognize words when reading like smallish texts. So I believe that this translation was close rhythmically and like in the words to the original, which I think for some books is more important than others. This one is a book that did have some kind of melody or quietness to the writing, where a good translation also really helps to get across the atmosphere of the book. So it's a book that is very short, and it talks about two 11-year-old girls. I can't really remember their names, to be honest, and I can't look it up because I had to give the book back to the library. But one of them is new to the neighborhood, new to the village. They both live in a secluded area where there's lots of nature, and it's winter. And when this new girls come to school, she and the other girl notice that they're very interested in one another. One is the alpha girl of her class. Everybody's very drawn to her in general. She's always the one that invents the games and stuff. And the other one stays at a distance of the group, but they keep looking at one another. They're attracted to one another. They keep like buzzing around, and at one point they do like come into contact a little bit more and decide to spend an evening together. To that one goes to the other's house, and in that evening you see that attraction building up a lot more. And the day afterwards, because of stuff that happened that evening, one of the girls decides that she doesn't really want to confront, she doesn't want to see the other girl that day, and therefore she decides to run away from home to go a little bit in the countryside, in the nature. And she kind of disappears. So the whole village has to look for her, and they all know that the previous day she spent some time with the other girl, so there's a lot of pressure put on her. Now that's basically the plot, but it's not really about the plot. Most of the book is about this relationship between those girls and how intense feelings and relationships can be when you're at a young age, and how intense friendship can be sometimes, especially when you're very young and somehow you find that you're interested in someone more than just meeting someone on the playground and you're playing together because you both have marbles or something, that you can really be attracted to one another. That was very well done, I thought, in the book. It's an interesting theme also to think about, how sometimes people just speak to you and you don't really yet know why, and how that evolves through your life. There's a lot of nature also in the book, because the children at different points walk alone in forests, sometimes during the night, sometimes when it's more cold. When the one girl that runs away from home, she spends a lot of time still walking through the woods and stuff, and you really feel the presence of the woods, of the cold, of the ice even. And well, the book is called The Ice Palace, so ice is going to have a bit more role. But that was palpable as well. I like this, the quiet but oppressing that a dark forest in the night can have. I thought that came across well in the book as well. One of the things that I really appreciated that the author did, that made that this relationship between the girls, that these girls really stood out and what was between them, is that throughout the whole book they are the only ones that are named. which is pretty cool. Everybody for the rest is called in relationship to them. So you have the parents of the girls, you have the aunts, you have different boys and girls from their class or a teacher, but they're all that man or the boy with the blue eyes, and they're the only ones that have names, which makes it even worse that I can't even remember the names, but I never remember names, so I'm forgiving myself. It's a short book, so I would recommend it if you're looking for something quiet but intense, and that is about children also. It's very good. Yeah, I liked it, and I love this cover also. I hope that if I find it one day in a free library or something, or come across it in a bookshop, I think I might actually buy it, because I have memories with this one. And one of the things also that impacted my reading a lot, but that was just me, is that the blurb on the book that I read said that it was about two 12-year-old girls. But if you recall the beginning, I said it's about two 11-year-old girls. That's really said in the first sentences. And they don't have a birth date before they have this evening where they spend more time together. So because the book said it was about two 12-year-old friends, I was kind of waiting for the birthday to happen and them to have this intense evening where they would tell one another secrets. And that doesn't really happen. I mean, they do have this intense evening together where stuff happens, but it's not as explicit as it says on the blurb, where one tells the other a secret and they are 12. So up until when one of the girls flees, you start getting the impression, oh wait, this is not just a random walk, and then they will still get together and become friends, blah blah blah. This is the actual event. So I was really thrown off by that. It goes to show how important blurbs are, because I think I would have had a totally different experience. It didn't make my experience worse, but I was alert to that. Anyway, the other book that I wanted to talk about is The First Woman by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. So this one won the Chilak Prize last year in 2021. And I can see why, because I also really appreciated it. So this is a book set in Uganda, more or less in the countryside, and we meet a young girl called Chirobe, and she is raised by her grandmother and her grandfather in a house where her cousins are also very present. And Chirobe has two things that are bothering her. One is that her spirit can kind of leave her body and then she can fly, and she doesn't want to do that. She wants to stay in her body. She has the impression that doing that is a bad thing and she doesn't want that. And the other is that she's very troubled by her mother not being there and her mother having abandoned her. She does know who her father is, and she, at one point later on in the book, also goes to his house. But her mother is this enigma. She doesn't know why she does not have a mother, at least a mother that is taking care of her. So for both of these things, she goes to the village witch who happens to also have a feud with her grandmother. And she wants to learn more about these two things, deal with both of these problems. And that's kind of the starting point that we have for Chirobe's life. As I said, later on she goes also to spend some time with her father in his house. He lives in the city, and then she goes to a boarding school for girls, and you see her kind of evolving from there a little bit. And the main theme in this book is womanhood in general throughout Chirobe's life, but also the voices of all the other women in the book. So we've got her grandmother, we've got two aunts, we've got the wife of her father, we've got a little bit what happens to her mother, we've got other friends and their mothers. You see different ways in which women can be oppressed and are women and are trying to fight against the oppression in very different ways. And the way in which they're vocal about, hey, but I am me, and I'm trying to take up this space. And you see a little bit differences through the generations. 1/3 before the end, you kind of, my voice is being weird and I don't have water. You leave Chirobe and you go back in time to when her grandmother, and the village witch are friends when they're young, and you see how the feud happened. So you also see what they're going through, how that is different from when Chirobe is a child and when she has a boyfriend, and all of the things that are going on with that. I really liked all of these different voices of women imparting their wisdom in different ways and seeing what Chirobe does with that. And she has a similar thing at one point happen to her as to what her grandmother and the village witch for lack of a better name, she's not the village witch. She's this strong woman who happens to be blind and who wanted to be a nurse. But still, that's what she's called on the freaking blurb. Blurbs are important, and I'm perpetrating the thing. Anyway, she has then a similar situation, and it's about a little bit how she deals with it versus what that happened, knowing. She kind of uses that knowledge. So I really liked it. I liked seeing how she evolved. There are some parts of the book that could have been left out that didn't really add to this feminism side of things. For example, when Chirobe is at the boarding school, there is a civil war going on, and that context wasn't explained very clearly. It's still because you're used to, when you're reading historical fiction and that there's a civil war, for it to be about the civil war, and now just for a little time the civil war is just a backdrop. It's just a thing that happened, but it didn't impact the characters very much. I mean, some of the girls, because they didn't see their parents anymore, and one of the friends of Chirobe has something like that, but it doesn't impact Chirobe herself. So I wonder whether that could have been different. On the other hand, it is part of what makes Uganda, and that is one of the points that Jennifer Makumbi is trying to make. I'll try to link a video that I saw where she talks about this book. Where she talks about how this book is an exploration of feminism and of being a woman, but in the Ugandan setting, and that being a woman and coming up for your own rights and beliefs and the ways in which you can be oppressed are very different depending on the context of your country, of your culture. And so she does that for the Ugandan context, and that there need to be more text like that showing how needs of different people can be different. So, really like this. Sometimes I will say it was a little bit on the nose. That's maybe because one of the reasons that I liked it. I liked that a lot of things were very explicit. That when one character would talk to Chirobe about different ways that she could be feminist and different ways that she could be a woman and try to be herself and fight against some of the oppression, that was very literal, very in your face. It's just one character telling another, look out for this because this and this. So I understand why that would not necessarily work for many people, but I like it when things are explained to me very clearly. So for me it worked, and I really appreciated this. So that is A First Woman by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi, and I am really looking forward to reading Kintu at some time, which is going to be a completely different thing, but I really like the writing and the storytelling in this one. Also, cover, not bad. Now, as I said, I also watched a movie for Iran. Iran is one of the countries that was picked in April, so this month, the other being Zambia, which I'm still reading a book from. And I wasn't planning on reading a book because I previously read The Enlightenment of the Greengage tree. I'll try to link the video in which I talk about that one up here somewhere. And I didn't have any other books that were on my TBR that I was really interested in, so had decided not to read a book. But then, a couple of days ago, we decided to go to the movies, and one of the movies that was showing on screen that evening was an Iranian movie called A Hero. Can't remember what the director's name is, but I'll link the trailer below. It's about a man who is sent to prison because he and a friend of his had borrowed money from someone to set up a company, and then his friend walks away with the money, so he is the one that the borrower of money then says boo and sends to prison, for lack of better words here. And he's off for 2 days. He has 2 days leave, so he goes back to his family, and he tries to find a way to make sure that he doesn't have to go back to prison. And a bag is found with a lot of gold in it, and he decides to give that money back to the person who lost the bag, sort of also in the hope that this good deed will make him look good. And you don't really know why he decides in the end to give the bag back, whether it is because of the good deed or because he really believes that it is the best thing to do. But that puts him in this very intricate web of people trying to get him out of prison, people wanting to leave him there because, well, he still owes people a lot of money. You've got his family that has invested. He's got a son that is 12 years old and has difficulty speaking, so he's kind of used sometimes as a way of letting people of showing people that this family has a lot of problems and etc. So he's put in this situation where he's at one point has so little wriggle room. It's very hard for him to find out what the right thing is, to do the right thing, to help his family, what's the right thing for who. There are different point of views of what the right thing is, of who's helpful, who's not, and that situation, that intricate web, immovable at one point, is portrayed so well. The acting was great, the story, the plot, the way a lot of things are shown or are not shown. There's still a lot of open ends at the end. Like, you don't know why he gives the bag back. You don't know of the person that picks up the bag, what their role in the story is. So there's interesting open endings, and it was a really good book. I will say, however, that I saw a good book. It was a really good movie. I really appreciated it. But I saw in the Dutch news that there's this rumor going around about the director maybe having plagiarized the story or something. I'm gonna have to look into that. If I find any information, I'll link it down below in case you want to know. But other than that, I would actually recommend it, except unless the plagiarism thing is a thing. I think also it was nominated for one of the Cannes Film Festival awards, if that might help you to choose. So those are the things that I've done in the past couple of weeks, month maybe, for Invisible Cities and reading around the world. How have your reading around the world plans been going? Are there any cool countries that you've discovered? My next plans are finishing my book about Zambia, that is Dead Aid. I can't remember the author, but I'll put a picture here, which is a non-fiction. And I also am looking forward to reading the group read for Invisible Cities about Ukraine, which is Grey Bees or something. Again, we'll put the cover here with the author. And I don't even know what the other country is for me, so I'm gonna have to look into that. See you in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.